After literally three prologues in a row, the arty 1973 horror flick Messiah of Evil opens on buxom beauty Arletty as she stops at a gas station near a California town called Point Dume in search of directions. Arletty is after her artist father. Until recently, he'd been keeping a beach house in Malibu, but lately his correspondence had been getting erratic and unbalanced. The nervous, shifty attendant is little help. After a sinister albino with lazy eyes, kind of like Peter Falk's in The Bloody Brood, shows up in a truck with a gruesome load, the attendant ignores Arletty entirely. She finds her father's house abandoned, but littered with evidence of his psychological dissolution. Not only his collection of strange but striking art objects, but also a journal in which he complains of alien influences and visions.
At night I find myself wandering alone in town, catching glimpses of horrid animals I know can't be there.
As Arletty sleuths about, she crosses paths with tall, dark Tom and his entourage of besotted young ladies. When they first meet, Tom is prying an old drunk to learn what he knows of a town legend about a blood moon, an ill omen that overtook Point Dume a century before, when the town was known as New Bethlehem.
I'm as old as the hills. Mama delivered me herself. She took me from between her legs. Bloody little mess. She was about to feed me to the chickens. And Daddy said, maybe we could use a boy, Lottie. That's how I came into the world.
The drunk warns Arletty to burn her father in a cryptic aside, then, like every other local who sings to her, winds up dead soon after. Tom's obvious sexual interest in Arletty alienates his traveling companions, and they, first the statuesque Laura and then the delinquent Tori, run off to town where they each meet an unfortunate fate in the movie's two most striking and derivative scenes. Meanwhile, back at the beach house, jealousy and infidelity give way to deterioration. Arletty begins to suffer from a spreading numbness in her body, and at the same time, the visions that haunted her father creep into her mind as well. It would seem that whatever inchoate presence has overtaken the town is now threatening to absorb her and her mysterious new companion. One of the more frustrating commonplaces when talking about movies of a certain period, the late 60s through the mid-70s thereabouts, is the inertial tendency among so many reviewers to assume they're somehow all about Vietnam. I wonder if critics a quarter century from now will see our current era the same way. The Twilight series is a metaphor for Iraq? Anyone? No? Messiah of Evil is one such title. Since I found this to be a tough movie to figure out, I read all the reviews and comments that Google could cough up, amateur and pro, and found several things mentioned repeatedly. And Vietnam probably came up most, although some more useful comparisons were also made. To Carnival of Souls, George Romero, H.P. Lovecraft, the classic movie Vampire, and so on. Which just goes to show that a truly clever work of art can prompt similar associations in widely different audiences, and at the same time leave itself open to just about any interpretation an honest viewer might like to draw. For a movie with such a following, Messiah of Evil also prompts tons of complaints. Many find the theme song too folksy and 70s soft rockish to convey the movie's mood, although attentive viewers might find a few early insights into Messiah by paying attention to the lyrics.
This is not a game. From them stay away, or you could become one, I say.
And many also complain of sluggish pacing in the second and third acts. But in a movie so invested in character development and rising action, this strikes me as unavoidable. The scenes reflecting Carnival of Souls flirt dangerously with the line between homage and theft. And sometimes the movie's self-conscious, almost pretentious sophistication can get a bit grating. That said, Messiah is ultimately haunting and elegant, and does at least one thing magnificently. capture the unique mood and meandering illogic of dreams. There's a powerful surrealism that seems less formal than maybe a reflection of real nightmares.
The art dealer was blind. Her fingers moved like a pale spider over my face.
The gas station attendant who incongruously fires a pistol at menacing sounds in the dark. The bizarre set pieces that turn Arlene's father's house into a labyrinth. The subaltern menace of Point Dune's deserted Main Street. The sense of specificity in Messiah's visions makes you wonder if the director actually dreamed of something like them, the way I dream, for instance, particularly and repeatedly of being caught on high scaffolds with no railings, or on open-doored elevators stuck halfway between floors. Some fun facts about Messiah. Director Willard Hoyk made it on a hiatus during the making of American Graffiti, which he'd just written the screenplay for. Hoyk was a lesser alumnus of the UCLA Film School, from the who's who era of Scorsese, Bogdanovich, Coppola, and Demme, which might help explain why this movie is so much more lush and thought-provoking than the typical Mill Creek fodder. The psychopathic albino trucker never appeared in any other film. The fact he never went on to become a Bond villain is a travesty, if you ask me. And though Mill Creek turned me on to this movie, sometimes an upgrade from the no-frills Mill Creek transfer can be welcome. Code Red just issued a new feature-rich DVD last fall with commentaries, interviews, and a much improved transfer quality. Messiah is an odd, beautiful, and overlooked work of art, and it deserves it.
My voice would have terrified her. At times, I make noises which don't seem human, and my mind is letting go. I try to remember the past, my daughter, but I can't. Instead, I think of death. Always death.
Sleepwalking.